Well, Mark, let's just start off by reflecting on that win over Widnes, 39-6. How do you look back on it now?
Yeah, really happy with it, if I'm honest with you. I think it's the most clinical we've been all year, especially that first 30 minutes. We've been getting teams in them sort of positions before and probably been a little bit wasteful or sloppy in terms of giving penalties away or coming up with some basic errors. So it was pleasing to see that. We've just got to build on it now. You know, we won't be getting carried away with ourselves. Excuse me, we're really pleased with it, but you know, we're nowhere near where we want to be in the league. I know it's still, you know, early doors, but we don't want to keep saying that. So it's important that you know, we don't get too carried away, and there's a lot of improvement in us still, and we take them lessons and we build on what we're doing well, and you know, take it into Sunday and what's going to be another physical game against Doncaster, who are playing some good stuff.
You talked about improvements there. What improvements do you still want to see from this side?
Just little things that every team will go chasing, whether that's, you know, things that we're doing as a team or individuals that can tweak the games here and there. But you know, we're still coming up with too many basic handling errors. We'll be carrying on chasing after them. You know, a bit of detailing now. We can fix defenders up better. You know, and just different ends to sets, all that sort of stuff that most teams will be doing. And it's one of them things that you're going to be constantly chasing throughout the year, at the same time as trying to obviously get the points on the board. So we're under no illusions that we thought it was a good performance. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to sound too negative Nancy there, but we've got high expectations for ourselves, and we feel that we've got a lot more that we can go after. And the most pleasing thing about the group is that the group was saying exactly the same things when we came to review it. So we've just got to make sure that we enjoy what we're doing well, and we also go chasing what we can improve on.
A big part of the turnaround seems to have been, you know, the fact that the defence has been much improved the last sort of 3 games and has helped you on this 3-game winning run. Would you agree?
Yes and no. I mean, Oldham obviously getting 50 put on you is nowhere near the standard, but you know, you look at the Toulouse game, it was 7-6. I don't think that were a defensive issue at all. You know, one try, and then Halifax was, I think it was 14-12 if I remember rightly, up until 79th minute. So it's not like we've been a million miles off, but you know, as completion rates have been down, as handling errors, and as penalty counts being far too high. So I don't think it's been purely down to defence. I think it's just been a mixture of a few different things, and you know, it's fair to say that I think Sunday were the highest we've completed all year, and the lowest penalty count we've had all year, and it just shows you, doesn't it, the consequence of doing that and doing the other stuff well.
Scott Galliano then, he came in and had quite the debut for you. 2 tries, could have had a hat-trick as well.
I think he could have had more, if I'm honest with you. Yeah, I think there were 4 or 5. There were a couple of the calls I feel we were unlucky on, but yeah, he looks good to Scott. As I said, when he came into training the first session, I thought, you know, you could tell he's well coached and an athlete. So yeah, looking forward to working with him.
I know obviously you returned to the Championship this week, but you still want to win away from Wembley now. And you'll find out your opponent whether you want to or not before kick-off on Sunday. So Bradford, Featherstone or Oldham, do you have any preference?
No, they're all going to be tough games, aren't they? And whoever you play, it's the same carrot for both teams. You know, you're 1 game away from Wembley, so we'll park that for the time being. I think it's a month away until you play that game, so that's irrelevant at this moment in time. You know, we'll worry about that when that game comes along. We're just focusing on Doncaster. You know, I think Orney's a great coach. You know, he's doing a good job under limited time, and I think we're in for a tough battle there. So I think it's really important that we show that respect to his opposition, because if we don't, you've seen what happens in Championship this year. If you're slightly off your game, you come up short, don't you?
And in the age of social media, do you have to say to the players, put your phones away, don't worry about the result? Will there be some players looking, or will you try and keep them focused on the job at hand?
I think it's irrelevant what I tell them to do. Like, phones are part of the modern game, aren't they? I think, you know, I go back to when I played, and you wasn't even allowed your phone out in the changing room, whereas now up until an hour before kick-off, it's a way of players relaxing. And I don't think there's a right and wrong way. As long as a player feels ready to go come 3 p.m. or whatever time you're kicking off, I'm pretty relaxed in that. So yeah, they'll be on the phones regardless.
Yeah. So looking at your team news, and I understand you've got quite a few healthy bodies to potentially come back into the reckoning this week.
All being well, touch wood, we've still got 2 sessions to go yet, and I've seen it drop before. So yeah, I think we've got 5 or 6 due back over the next couple of games. So you've got Atta and Garner, who's obviously declared fit now, Kieran Hudson, you've got Jax O'Neill, you've got Connor Fitzsimmons, Miles Harrison should be there or thereabouts, Brad Ward, very similar, should be there or thereabouts. I feel like I'm missing 1 or 2. Jacob Gannon should be, Jacob Gannon's back full training tonight. So, as long as we don't pick up any bumps or bruises, it's sort of selection headache that you want. And I think it's been a credit to the players that's been out injured, how they've applied themselves to get themselves back fit, but also a credit to the playing squad that, people's had to roll the sleeves up and either do longer minutes or play out of position, and not one person's grumbled about it. They've just done what's best for the team, sometimes at sacrifice to themselves, and that's pleasing to see as a coach, that everyone sees the team as the bigger cause than themselves. So we'll just keep on working hard, and it's up to the lads that are coming back to earn the stripes and earn them shirts back, because some of the kids that have, or men should I say, that's come in, such as Harvey Reynolds, they've taken the chance, and I'm all for that. If someone takes a chance and they deserve to be in that team, they'll be in that team.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think both Jax O'Neill and Kieran Hudson were both hamstring injuries that were sort of pre-season. Have you got to the bottom, because I think you were going to look into it as a club as to why you'd picked up so many hamstring injuries at the start of the season? Do you know the reasons why, or can you put it down to anything?
We've had a look at quite a lot of things. The biggest one that I think got us in terms of Kieran and Brad Ward was the travel to Amsterdam. Obviously training on a different surface, a lot of sitting down, travel and that. We don't know if we've just been unlucky with that. Some of the other ones, we're trying to see if there's a correlation between what we're doing and if there's any patterns emerging. Sometimes players are just unlucky and get a pull. So it's going to be an ongoing thing. That it's important that we get not only this year, but we look back at the last 2-3 years, and then you can start looking at patterns. I think it's amazing how sports science has come on. That I'd love to tell you it's me that's doing all that data analysis, but I think we know I'd be lying. So we've got the performance team on with that, having a good look. So they'll give me some good answers when they have them. Joe
Law was also an unused 18th man last week. Is he carrying a knock, or has he come through that? Or?
Yeah, I forgot about Joe. Joe still had blurred vision. He got poked in the he got like a chin in the eye against Barrow, which sounds a weird injury, but it caused him quite a lot of pain. We had to send him for a CAT scan, all the lot, and it turns out that he bruised his optic nerve. So he was okay looking north to south, but when he looked east to west, I think it was just causing him a bit of a blurred vision. And Jude had been training really well, and I had no issues in throwing Jude in, even though it were out of position. So Joe was very selfless and said, I'm only 80% fit, but I'll play if you want me to, whereas you've got Jude that were 100%, and it was the right call, wasn't it? Because we got the result.
Yeah, and he got a try as well. Have you been impressed with him, kind of how he has kind of come in and as you said, playing out of position as well?
Yeah, I've been impressed with everyone, if I'm honest with you. I'm pretty honest as a coach. I'll tell players why they're in or not in the team, and Jude's taken the feedback that I've given him on board, and he's a pleasure to coach. Turns up every day, trying hard, ready to listen. There's definitely no ego on him. He listens to where I feel he needs to improve, but he'll also tell me, things that he feels he's doing well. So, he's fitting exactly how I thought Jude would fit in, and like most of the other new signings.
Yeah, and the half-back pairing of Liam Harris and Paul McShane have been a fantastic combination over the last 3 games as well. When you throw into the mix the fact that Atta Ngano is coming back into the mix as well, it gives you a real sort of selection headache, whether or not you keep Paul where he is or move him back to hooker, but then that creates a knock-on further elsewhere, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's it, and that sort of headaches you want as a coach. So we'll have a good discussion as a team on that one. But you don't win a Man of Steel for nothing, and Macca's played Super League at half-back. He knows how to play that role. I thought he's complemented Liam really well, and he's allowed Liam to play his natural game, and I think you've seen the consequence of that. He's been in great form, and I've got no issues. Atta's coming back, they'll be exactly the same. I mean, If we go off last year's form when Liam and Atta were playing together, they were sublime, wasn't there? So it's just a case of getting a settled spine and letting them actually get reps together. I think that affected us them first 3 games, and it's been no hidden facts that we've had a pretty settled spine over them last 3 games, and you can start to build some combos.
And I'm guessing that Liam Harris, because he wore a boot for much of last week, I understand as well, but obviously played, scored a try, had the 5 conversions and a dropped goal. So I'm assuming hasn't had any setbacks, since Sunday.
No, he's a tough cookie, he's Liam. He was pretty bad after the Barrow game, if I'm honest with you, and it only really settled down for him on the Friday, but it turns out it was a tendon that had been causing the issue. So once we kind of highlighted that fact, it settled down really quick for him. But I think it's going to be a good 2-3 week managing thing, just letting that tendon inflammation settle down. So as long as we look after him in between games and let it recover, then as long as you don't pick up any new bumps or bruises, I can't envision why he can't play.
So Doncaster then to come on Sunday. You mentioned obviously that they're going to come into it, and they're going to be a team as well that are going to come into the game well rested as well. Yeah,
well rested, well coached, with some quality players throughout it. I think they've got not only a lot of punch in the team. I think they're probably one of the biggest teams in the league, but they've got some genuine quality talent in there as well. And we're expecting a very, very tough game. I've coached a few of them myself. Obviously, I coached Riesling at Wakefield. We know exactly what a handful he can be, especially when they're on the front foot. I think all the back 5 will do a cracking job in getting them on the front foot in yardage, and then, when that pack gets back behind the ball, they can continue that sort of momentum. So, then play off back of that with the halves they're a dangerous team. They've got a well-deserved result against Toulouse. Being unlucky in a couple of others. So. We're expecting a very, very tough encounter.
Yeah, and Richard Horne is obviously a player that's got that relationship with the Hull FC, franchise, former Super League players, or whether or not he's brought in players that are on dual reg. There's a lot of kind of, as you said, punch and former Super League talent in that squad as well.
Yeah. Well, if you look at the part, I know they brought Hugo Slabio in. I actually signed Hugo from the French league at my previous club, so I know exactly what he's capable of. Josh Bowden, he's a 200, 300 game veteran in Super League. You could go throughout the team, they've Paulie, Matagai, there's so many that you can go through. So we're well aware of where their threats are going to be, and likewise we know where our threats are too. So it should be a good game. We just want to carry on building where we want to get to in the league, and Doncaster will have their own sights on where they want to be, so may the best team win.
Yeah, Paulie, obviously a former York Knight as well. Did you work well with him at Wakefield? Is he a player that you know well from his time there?
Yeah, I know Paulie. I was the head of youth / reserve coach, academy coach when Paulie's time were there. So I know his York fans know him well as well. But one of the biggest human beings I've ever seen in my life. So. I think he's had a bit of a knee surgery, but I think he'll be good for Sunday. Or we're planning on him being good for Sunday. So, we'll have to be mindful of him, but at the same time, we won't go away from what we're doing well as well.
Do you look at the table before a game like this? The fact that Doncaster are only ahead of you on points difference, an opportunity that if you get the result that you can take another leap up that table and get more to where you want to be at the moment.
I don't think I look at the table really until 15, 20 games in. That's just the honest truth. I think yourself. I mean, what are we, 5 games in? We're coming into round 6. No one's where they want to be. Maybe barring Halifax, I think Halifax are the only undefeated team at the moment. So we know that we've got some hard work in front of us to get where we want to be, and we'll just take it week by week. Sounds real cliche, real boring, but literally our focus is purely on Doncaster, and we'll look no further than that. And all we're after is getting an improvement on how we've performed the week before. After we've done that, we'll reassess, and go into that next game after that. But it's literally 100% focused on Doncaster at the moment.
And it's a game on Sunday where it's a double-header with the Valkyrie playing at midday. Yeah. Does that add to the raucous atmosphere here at home as well? Do you enjoy double-header games like that?
Yeah, I think everything, whether it's with the Valks or if we had an academy or a local community team, whoever, I just think I think English sport misses a trick, especially in rugby league, in terms of making it an event for the day. You know, in my opinion anyhow, if you could get people coming into the stadium from 10 in the morning to watch a, you know, an under-16s game or whatever, and then build it up, and then, you know, you've got your pinnacle on whoever's playing at the end. I just think it creates that atmosphere throughout the day, you know, and the York fans are class, if I'm honest with you. I thought they were class against Widnes. I thought the singing back and forth against each other, it's just great to watch. And if you ask any Australians that come over here, they don't experience that in Australia, and they love that English tribalism, you know, that comes with it, and I think it just creates a good atmosphere. So I think as a whole, the double headers are great. I'd just love to see it being done more often and more games as well.
Hi, Mark.
Hi, Gabriel.
Just quickly reflecting on that Widnes game.
Yeah.
Just hearing from the outside, it seems like Kieran Buchanan had potentially his best match so far in that shirt. How impressed were you with him and sort of the work which is going behind the scenes to get to that point?
Yeah, I've been impressed with everybody. I think Kieran's done a lot of unselfish shifts this year. He's played out of position in a number of games, and he's also, you know, had to put his hand up in a couple of tricky situations to play. And it's exactly what I knew I was getting with Kieran. When we signed him from Batley, we knew that we had a real workhorse on his hands that were all about the team and not himself, and he's living up to that expectation. So yeah, really happy with Kieran on the weekend.
How do you think Akumatai sort of dealt with return to action after quite a bit of time out with obviously off-field issues?
Yeah, exactly what you'd expect from Akuma. He's a very well drilled player, knows the game inside out, as you'd expect for someone with his experience. So we tried limiting his minutes just so we didn't overexpose him. You know, it's always hard, especially when the sun's out, if you've not played a proper competitive game in 6 months or whatever it's been. So I thought he was great, and he'll be a lot better for it. Excuse me.
Obviously, the great news about all the players coming back and the team news and everything like that. How much of a selection headache does that give you? How do you go about managing everyone's happiness and making sure everyone remains sort of, you know, no one's upset about missing out on things like that?
Well, short story is you're never going to keep everyone happy. Players want to play, but ultimately the team's the most important thing. You know, the best thing I can do is be honest with people, and if people are doing the job in the team and we're winning, it makes life a lot easier, because it's harder to drop people from a winning team, isn't it? And it's up to the people coming back to, you know, go above and beyond, which should hopefully drive the standard up, which should result in an improved performance. So I'd rather have this sort of headache than the one we had at Barrow, where we were literally down to 17 fit bodies. So yeah, bring it on all day. Yeah.
And just on Liam Harris as well, if my maths is correct, and it definitely could not be, but I believe he could reach 500 points this week, assuming it all goes well with him on Sunday. But how much of an achievement is that if he could reach that milestone?
Yeah. Best thing about Liam is he'll be more bothered about, you know, getting a result for the team rather than himself. But yeah, I've enjoyed working with Liam since I've come to York. Obviously, I knew of him before, but I didn't know too much of him. And I think he's not only an excellent player, but just a great person and a great captain. How he marshals the team and you know, goes about his business in terms of driving a standard and an expectation, I think is first class. So if he's lucky enough to achieve that on the weekend, it'll be well deserved, and you know, I'll be cheering for him for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And the last thing from me, obviously the news is out this week about the Challenge Cup semi-final to be held in York and at the LNER Stadium. Have you got any thoughts on that? Because I'd imagine from a rugby perspective especially that it's quite good for the fans, you know, to know that they're getting these massive events happening right in their backyard.
Yeah, I think it's a great stadium to host a semi-final. I mean, I was chatting to Willie Peters about it actually. It was him that told me that the semi-final were on, and I think Hull KR will bring 8,000 over. I genuinely do. They travel really well to the KR fans. They'll make a very noisy atmosphere, as we found out when we played them in the previous round. So I think York Rugby League fans are in for a very good treat. If you're a neutral fan and you can get across, I'd definitely do it. And I think it's a great showcase of York's Rugby League infrastructure and how good we can host an event to get given a semi-final. So I think it's a win-win for everyone. You know, Catalan and OKR will be a great game. So yeah, I might try to get over to that one myself and soak up the atmosphere.
You mentioned the infrastructure there. Do you think it's a sign of the potential that the Knights have, where they've got everything sort of in place, and it's just now a case of making that push towards obviously getting into the Super League?
Yeah, I wouldn't have signed here if I didn't think so. I think York, for me, and you could say this over 2 or 3 clubs in the Championships, really made some massive improvements that, in my opinion, York's got better infrastructure than some clubs in Super League in terms of the stadium, training environments and things like that. And then you've just got to make sure that you're doing everything you can to put your best foot forward. I've said all along, I think getting a top flight rugby league club in York is a no-brainer for me, because there's no one around for 20-30 mile, and if York were in the right league, I'm sure that the passionate fans would also get a lot of neutral fans, and that crowd would go up to easily 6,000 to 10,000 depending who you're playing. And I just think it's a complete no-brainer to eventually get a York team in the top flight. If you look at I can only use where I live, at Wakefield. You've got Wakefield, you've got Castleford, you've got Huddersfield, you've got Leeds, all in very close proximity of each other, whereas I think York's nearest rivals would be Leeds or Hull. I'd have to work out which is closest, but you talk about growing the game, what more do you need there than that sort of demographic around you? And York's one of the most iconic cities in the UK. If you play in York in middle of summer, for example, a lot of people would want to make a weekend of it and have a night, in York town centre. So I'm sure the city of York would be fully behind that as well. So it's exciting times. I know there's a lot of talk on what's going on with leagues. I'd be lying to you if I told you I knew, but I think it's safe to say that what has been happening over the last 20 years probably is getting a bit stagnant and not working for everyone. So if the NRL do get involved, I'm sure there'll be some pretty tough calls, and hopefully they see a club such as York and one or two others that are trying to put the foot forward, as well as some new entities in a new developed league.